Are you in position? Are you ready?
Thank you, wardrobe.
Settled right.
Are you settled?
Settle, please.
Settle, please.
Camera ready?
Is the camera ready?
Okay, let's roll camera, please.
Don't know easy.
And playback.
All right. Look at that. It is ready. Are you ready, Susan?
I'm always ready.
Good deal. Good deal. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. We are live from the safe deposit box of the Andrew Johnson Bank studio. What? Is that not the case?
Well, that's true, but it's funny.
It is
Just
funny.
think of the whole story behind the naming of this.
I know. Josh doesn't think it's funny. But that's okay. Josh isn't here today. And we think it's funny, right?
Right.
There you go. So, good morning, everyone. It's June 5th. It's 9:04. We have an exciting show planned for you today. We have Wendy Benton coming in later with a very special guest. We'll also be talking about the past weekend. The Bradley County EMS had a fundraiser over at Cleveland High School. Got some highlights from that
Cool.
that we'll show. So, but before we get to all that fun stuff, we have Susan in the studio. Is this part 6?
This is part 6.
Oh, man. So tell us what we've been doing for the first 5 parts to work our way up to this.
Okay, do you want me to hold the whole quilt? Let's hold the whole quilt out.
Let's do the whole quilt. I think so.
Yes. This is, whoops, trying to blow my notes off the table. But here is the whole quilt.
Here, give me the other corner there. We'll stretch it across the table. There we go.
There. Can we see it okay?
Yeah, we'll bring
That-
it this way a little bit, yeah.
That's what we're making.
So as you can kind of sort of see in this this shot here, we have all 6 of these.
And we're on part 6, which is that one right here.
Okay, and we've done all the other 5. So if you want to learn how to make these 5 that you see on screen right now, you can watch our other videos on YouTube. Just go to WTMB's YouTube page. And we'll usually start off with a title, Susan Hyder from Hyderhangout does something.
Yes.
So we're on the bottom
This one right here.
left. Okay, cool. So yeah, we've been going over the past I guess month, I would say, almost
Yeah.
2 months. We've
Well, probably
we've gone
about a month, but you know, we've had things in between.
Yep. So so let's talk about what's included in the 6th part of this.
Okay. Well, this is a triangle and a square star. I say that fast a bunch of times. I'm blocking it. There we go. What we have here is a triangle and a square.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a triangle, and that's a square. And then what we have here, just two different parts, and this is a simple 4-patch. And I'm going to show you how to do the simple 4-patch quick way.
Okay.
And then we're going to do 2 ways on how to do the triangle and the square.
Okay.
So the quick way on the 4-patch is you end up with these.
Mm-hmm.
And in our block, we of course have 5 of them.
Yep.
But these are simple 4-patches. Very, very simple. Normally people will just cut the squares out and sew them together, 2 together, and another 2 together, and then pin them together. So they cut a whole bunch of squares out. But what we did here is these are finished 2-inch, so we cut it 2.5 because we end up with a 4.5-inch block here. 4-inch finished, so these are 2-inch finished. We took 2 2.5-inch strips and sewed them all the way down together.
And how big is that piece?
That's selvage to selvage. So
Okay.
they call it with the fabric.
With the that's the WOF.
Right.
In your patterns or in your
Right.
your designs.
So this is with the fabric. We sewed it all together. We pressed it. And we're going to go over here and put this right here. And can we see okay?
Mm-hmm.
What we have here is we have this right here. And we have this selvage piece. And remember, we got to cut that off because it shrinks different and acts different. Foreigner or whatever. Throw it away. So now we have a nice straight edge here. And we are going to cut. So what were these strips here cut? Do you remember just now I told you these were 2.5-inch strips?
Mm-hmm.
So to make a 4 patch, we're going to cut these 2.5. So we cut, and we would cut all of these. Keep going cutting them. But you have these. You cut all this up. You have the pieces right here.
Mm-hmm.
So we have these pieces, and you've cut the whole thing. You got a whole bunch of them. Cross with the fabric, 2.5 inches will go in 17 times. And then you put it together, right sides together here, see? And you've already pressed it when you had it, so these seams are already pressed. And you've got your little notches.
Mm-hmm.
And you will put those together, just put a pin to hold them, unless you're way skilled, and then you don't necessarily need the pin. And then you're going to sew that seam, and voila, you have your 4 patch.
Nice.
And instead of cutting out a whole bunch of different little squares, you cut the strips. And that's if you're doing something that has the same colors. If you're doing a scrappy one, of course, you'd cut all the squares and just sew them together. So that's how you got your 4 patch for our block.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. There's 2 ways to do the triangle and a star. And the first one I'm going to do is show you how to do it. Here are some templates. Now this is used for both ways, either just piecing it or paper piecing it. And paper piecing is one thing we're going to introduce this morning. But this is template B and template A, and they say in the template what size to use. There are some specialty rulers, Tri-Rec tools for making the triangle and a square, and then Eleanor Burns has some triangle and a square rulers. So,
And those items, as far as those tools, can they get those at
yes,
Hyderhangout?
yes.
Cool.
And they're basically made with this
That
kind of
plastic.
the plastic, and they're in the shape of this,
Okay.
and then this triangle right here. Eleanor Burns is a little bit different, and it's got a technique, but hers is pretty cool too.
Okay.
But what I did here is I just cut a 5-inch square here, and this size of this up here,
Yeah.
and I cut a whole bunch of them. And for these up here, both pieced and paper pieced, I just went ahead and cut this piece here. So I have a bunch of those, and I'll show this in just a second. And this, you could have gone ahead and trimmed that down so it was in a triangle. And I think I did that in this next step here. But this is a template. This is how to do just the plain old pieced. You have this here, and you have your triangle, and it's an equilateral triangle. So this particular one's an equilateral triangle, and then let me get my little pointer, cut the top off, the little tip on the top, so it would lay better up here. So see there on the template, instead of a triangle on the top, they cut the top off. So we put this down here. I got a little bit low right here, but this is big. This is a little bit bigger, so we can trim it at the end anyway. But I've sewed the 1/4-inch seam. I put this so this is sticking off, so when you fold it, it's closer to being matched. And you just sew that seam, take it to the ironing board, and press it towards the what? Dark side?
Yes. Each time.
Each time, unless the pattern says different. But this one, I go ahead and press it towards the dark side. Actually, I think on this one it lays better towards the light side, and that's what I did. So then you get your other piece and put it on here and sew it down. There's your seam. And then press it. And it will be a little bit bigger than your 4-inch finish, which is 4.5 inches.
Okay.
And you have, what I like about this particular star is you don't have to match the tops up here real good. But you have your 4.5 inch, and you still have a little bit of room here. But what you do is you'll trim this to 4.5 inch. Trim. Should have put tape on here. I usually put tape to keep me. That one just needs a little. And there we got it. 4.5 inches. And that's your
Nice.
star pieces. And I'm going to just lay it over there on top because we're going to go to paper piece now.
Okay.
Now, paper pieced is, I'll put that over there, where you have, they also call it foundation piecing, but paper piecing is where you have a piece of paper and you print it out. You have to make sure that your computer is set on scaling none or print 100% to ensure that the patterns come out the right size. But you also want to check them, make sure that your printer is good and your computer is good. So these are some templates. This is how the pattern comes out, templates. They also have a whole bunch of different patterns, not just this simple one. And this is where paper piecing in the future will help you. We made this with a paper pieced or foundation pieced.
That's cool.
Only difference between paper piece and foundation piece, they put it on a piece of fabric and leave the fabric there. Paper piece is, as you'll see at the very end when we get through here, that you just take the paper off when you're done. Foundation piece, you take a piece of fabric and trace around your pattern. They are, this is the book that this little...
Let's see that. Let's do that on the book on the
big
other.
one, okay.
There you
That's the book that the polar bear came from.
go. Okay.
And it's got 50 different animals in it. And then there's paper piecing. They call this one foundation piecing. Paper piecing pretty much use the term interchangeably.
Yeah.
And this one has Christian hymns. And I do have this Needles and Notions book at the shop too. And I know it's hard to see that on the back, but it's got paper piece and it's got all the different sewing implements, scissors, whatever. And I don't know if we can see it on the close-up here to see.
There you go.
Can you see the little needle and thread and a rotary cutter and all the little teeny ones on here? I'd have that one at the shop too.
Okay.
And what they are is, let me find a pretty nifty one here. Well, that's complicated. That might scare somebody to death. Bunch of these in here look a little complicated, but they're step by step. Well, here's one. And this is just the dove part.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually this part right here, the wing part and the head would be on the other piece. And they're all marked. And this is part A. And then see where these lines here are?
Mm-hmm.
Those are separate ones. So you do just the part D, and you do the color D1, D2, D3, D4. And you make that piece, set it aside, and it'll have a 1/4 inch seam all the way around. And the same thing with this piece here, this one here, and this one here, and then you'll sew them together. So basically, paper piece, even if it looks overwhelming, it's just step by step by step.
Yeah.
And once you learn the technique, you either love paper piecing and you want to do it a whole bunch of it, or you hate it. I've never seen anybody that's been lukewarm in between on paper piecing. They either hate it or love it.
Right.
And we will stick these books right over here. And what we have is, I always get my piece here and turn it over, trace it, so that we can see it better. And I threw this away a little bit early. And I should have, I don't know if I brought an extra one of those or not. I don't see it. Oh, yeah, it's in here. These are, okay. I didn't bring an extra already cut one. So we're going to whack it here and hope we got it pretty close. But what you do is you are going to sew on these lines. So you put this on the back, and that's why I draw on the back so that you can see where you have to cover. Now on the back is your finished side. So you got to make sure that these cover, and instead of having to hold it up and look through it, that's why I go ahead and put that there. So I'll pin that there. And then you have this piece here, and you want to test it. When you're doing something like the little animals, you just have chunks, and you just make sure that the chunk that you're sewing on top will cover it. And what I do here, and we're going to have to go up to the other camera so they can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm holding it up in the light to make sure that this piece is covering my seam. So we got that there, and I'll just stick a pin there to hold it in place. We can go back over here to this now. And we're going to sew on this dark line here. That's a sewing line. And we also on this, when we do paper piecing, foundation piecing, not so important. You'd usually use a stitch length that's currently what you're using, 2.5, something like that. But this I go down to 2 because if you do a smaller stitch here, when you get ready to tear your paper out, it's already kind of scored your paper.
Right.
Be easier to cut. So you're going to sew on that, which is this. See, we've sewed on that line. Now, on normal paper piecing, without having the templates there, this is why I left it big to show you. You fold your paper out of the way, and then you're going to cut your seam allowance here. So if you have a scraggly piece that you wanted to cover that with, you're still going to make a nice seam allowance in here.
Okay.
Underneath the paper. So you go there, get your 1/4 inch seam, and there's also specialty rulers that you can just cut the 1/4 inch. It's called Add a 1/4 ruler by CMN Designs. And so there you've cut your 1/4 inch seam, but you did not cut your paper off because, say for instance, you had more that you had to add out here. You didn't want to cut your pattern off. So then we've got that, and it makes a nice exact seam there. And you can, like you saw me do there, I just finger pressed it. Mm-hmm. With paper piecing, I don't necessarily. And see, this is okay here. This is a little bit short here, but as long as it goes about 1/8 of an inch across the seam allowance, which you probably can't see on
Drop
TV.
it down just a little bit lower.
But you probably can't see this on TV. This is a little bit short here, but it's still at 1/8 past where our seam allowance is going to be there. And paper piecing, sometimes that happens, just as long as you get it where caught in there good, it's okay. People get all upset, oh, I don't have a 1/4 inch seam. As long as it's caught in their seam good and it's not like right on the edge, a 1/16 of an inch, bigger than that, 1/8 of an inch, it's okay. So this is what we have here. We've already done that. And I did this with the template, so I didn't trim that seam underneath, but I could go back and trim that one.
Right.
And that's that. And then we add the other one here. That seam there. And Obviously, I didn't press that one because it doesn't want to stay open. But you press that seam and put your other piece. And you're going to, with the templates here, you can just put it down and you'll know it's past it. But I would put it up in the sky and
Here.
or on a.
You can kind of see.
Okay.
There you go.
And then I would just put it up and look and see. So then you turn it over, and you'll sew on that seam, and you sew on that seam and press it open. And where's my finished one? Here's my finished one, and I put it down and I cut it to 4.5 inch. I already did that for us. I'll show you here. You just trim around and cut it to 4.5 to trim it to 4.5, like that. And you see mine's a little short here, but if you look at the seam allowance, I still have that much in there, so it's okay to use that. Some people start throwing their paper piece things away, and if they got that about that much seam allowance, they're okay to still use it. So here we have our triangle and a square with the seam allowance in order to sew it to this.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't leave the paper on there. See that it'll fit our 4.5 inch.
Right.
4 block, but we have sewed this with small enough, and this is just plain old copy paper. Some people have, they have specialty papers out there that you can buy that are easier to tear. I keep a pack or two in the shop all the time because there's people that are paper piece all the time that like it, and then you've got your paper out of the way, and you got your nice. And what's nice about this is you have your points and stuff that are very exact. You know, when you're doing, you got the human error when you're doing the 1/4 inch seams, and sometimes if you just do the one where we just sewed it without the paper, sometimes they get off a little bit. But if you do paper piece and you do it on the line, you get exact. So that's why you can do these things in here that are just so cool. And they've got all these exact little things. See this little kangaroo? And he's got little arms and tail and stuff. And he is pretty small size. They're all about the size of this guy here. So you can see on here how exact his toes are. If you were trying to do that with seam allowance and do your 1/4 inch seam allowance, he might come out a little bit crooked.
Right.
But that's the advantage of doing the paper piecing.
Nice. Very cool.
So questions?
I can see how looking at the from the book, you know, if you just glance through it, it might be a little bit overwhelming just looking at, because some of them have a lot of different pieces to them.
Right.
So, but no, the key is to follow step by step.
Step by step. Anything in quilting is step by step.
Yeah. If I was just looking at it just at a glance, it would be.
I can't never do this, right? But people
Right.
find out that they can do a lot of nice detailed. See, here's this cute little butterfly. And it's 3 different sections, and then the 3 sections are put together.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, that is the most detailed, I would say, is of the 6
That's true.
of the 6 blocks because
That's true,
of the
because of the
differences.
triangle and the square.
Right, it's different than the other ones. So, well, cool. Do we have a possible preview for Friday?
Possible preview for Friday. I thought about bringing some paper piecing and a sewing machine. I don't know if you would want me to demonstrate it and do one of these little ones step by step, if we think we need to do that, or something brand new. I've got about 5 brand new things that I could share.
Okay. We'll leave it for maybe a spoiler.
Oh, okay.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you, Susan, for coming by. And if you get a chance and, oh, yes, I'm gonna let. This is very, very important, Susan. I'll let you take it from here.
Okay.
Here, do you need the poster? Do you need the visual aid?
Yes, we need a visual aid. Okay, these are. This is a annual benefit.
Here's our visual aid.
Here's the
There you
visual aid.
There you go.
Purchase tickets.
Who's coming to town?
Amy Grant. Woohoo! I'm like so excited. The only thing on here is says it's a benefit. Who does it benefit?
I think it's the Athens Area Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, okay.
If you look in the poster
Yeah, it says
here,
Athens Area Chamber of Commerce 11th Annual Benefit Dinner, so I don't know if it's for the chamber or if they have a fundraiser for some kind of thing there, but of course, Chamber of Commerces are nonprofits anyway. So she's coming to McMinn County High School. Woohoo! June 17th.
Yep, doors open at 6. Program begins at 7. And Susan, if you want to show off your, I gave Susan 2 tickets to that this morning, and they also gave her 2 more.
So the 2 more
Yeah.
are for a contest with Hyder Hangout. I'm trying to decide. The thing is not everybody has Facebook, so I may do it combination Facebook in the shop.
In store.
Yes.
Something.
Something. So I've got to go and learn how to do the drawing on Facebook thing. Yay! I'm gonna be so computer savvy pretty soon. I'll be dangerous. But I have 2 tickets for a giveaway, sponsored by our wonderful WTNB
Hooray.
TV station, favorite one in the world, right?
That's right.
And so come in. We've got we'll have a drawing in the store, and I will do something on Facebook. I don't know if it'll be linked to here and put a comment on the side or something like that. Anyway, we'll do something where we can do giveaway for those of you who are not in town, because I do know that there's a bunch of people that like Facebook, and I send stuff all over the world. So.
That's right.
So anyway, I love Amy Grant, so I'm like so excited. I
And
know
we
if you
also
could-
have a bunch more tickets to give away. So between this week and next, we'll be giving some away. In fact, tomorrow, I'm going to do a little cross promotion here. Tomorrow, if you folks want to watch Man Up America with Adam Lowe will have 2 tickets to give away. So what you
so
have to
on his
do,
you got to watch the program.
you
and
got to
then-
watch his program, which will be on our Facebook page, live streaming tomorrow, starting at 1. And if you comment that you want some tickets to Amy Grant, we will have a drawing at the end of that show. Give away 2 tickets.
Oh, okay.
We'll let Adam choose who's going to man up on Amy Grant. Man Up America tomorrow, 1 o'clock. Tune
That's
in,
cool.
get your tickets. It'll be fun. Awesome. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. I believe Miss Wendy Benton will be strolling into the studio as she does. So in the meantime, we'll get a word from some of our sponsors. And coming up, we have some folks from the New Hope Pregnancy Care Center to come by to talk about some things that they have going on there. Very exciting.
That's exciting, yeah.
I won't spoil too much on that. So thank you,
and,
Susan.
and we do charity quilts for them too.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Very cool. So it's good to support New Hope Pregnancy Care Center. They will be in at 10 a.m., and Wendy will be with us for that. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Art of quilting have been enjoyed for generations. Hyder Hangout, Quilt Fabric and More in downtown Cleveland is all things quilts and much more. Hyder Hangout stocks a vast selection of beautiful fabrics from upholstery to evening wear and will special order hard to find items. Find all the accessories to make any project fun and easy. Hyder Hangout offers expert instruction with classes for the beginner and the advanced. Ready to show your style? Get to Hyder Hangout, Quilt Fabric and More, 219 First Street Northeast, downtown Cleveland.